Shabbat Shalom. This week we will talk about Parashat Chayei Sarah. The main subject I want to talk about is the assignment that Abraham gives to Eliezer to find a suitable wife for Isaac. I want to focus on the winning combination between divine providence and human wisdom. As an introduction, I would like to emphasize that our world is very complicated. We are complicated people. God knows exactly into what kind of world He put us in. And so He created us with common sense and reason. God created us with a good and healthy mind with the intent that we would use it. And the combination of good sense and divine providence brings to success and blessing. Sometimes we have no choice and we are completely dependent on God. Other times, we can use the wisdom that God has given us. In chapter 24, Abraham has Eliezer swear that he will find Isaac a good wife. Although that there is no problem to find a family willing to give away its daughter to a person of means such as Abraham's successor, and therefore Eliezer takes 10 camels loaded with all good things, but a family who cares for his daughter's well-being would not be happy to send her off to a faraway land, since the family will not be able to stand by her side when necessary. We must understand that this is a concern of every family. It's difficult to send your daughter off to a faraway country without the possibility of supporting her. This means it will be difficult for Eliezer to find the right wife for Isaac and to persuade the family to send her far. Eliezer understands that he has two jobs. First is to find a suitable wife for Isaac. And second, to convince her and her family to agree to marry a total stranger who lives far away. Eliezer had three options. At best, find a respectable family that is in dire financial stress and is willing to send their daughter to a distant land in order to give her a chance for a better life. Another possibility is to find a greedy family that will be dazzled by Abraham's wealth and will ignore any possible distress for their daughter. This is what actually happened. And the worst option would be to find a family that would be happy to get rid of their problematic daughter because her chances of getting married in her environment are slim. I'm sure that these questions bothered Eliezer, and at the end Eliezer decided that only God could find the right girl under these conditions. The problem is how to know what is God's choice when there's no explicit statement on the matter. To ensure that God's guidance is in play here, Eliezer comes up with an impossible test with no real chance of working. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar and I may have a drink, and she says, drink and I will water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Genesis 24:14. Why would this be an impossible test? First, a good girl from a good family doesn't go to draw water. There are servants for that kind of work. Pumping and hauling water is hard work. A clay jar full of water on a girl's shoulder is perhaps a romantic painting. But in reality, it's a hard job. Second, a girl must approach a man, and before her, there's a strange man asking to drink water from her jar. A good girl would logically not talk with strangers. And she would not approach a man to let him drink from her jar. As Eliezer spoke, please give me a little water from your jar. The final demand of Eliezer, that the girl willingly offer to water 10 camels who had just finished a long journey, is absurd. No girl would offer or initiate such hard labor. Perhaps a man of great strength would offer this option in return for a decent wage, but not a girl. How much water can a camel drink after a journey? The answer may surprise you. A camel can drink up to 100 liters, 27 gallons in 10 minutes. In other words, Eliezer is expecting this girl to volunteer and draw a ton of water for his 10 camels. After the test and the answer, Eliezer makes use of his intelligence. We can see that Eliezer is clever. He begins by giving gifts to the girl. Up until now, we call her girl, but we know that this is Rebecca. The man took out gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. Before Eliezer introduces himself, he gives the girl jewelry in order to create a comfortable atmosphere for conversation. Eliezer figured that the girl would run home and tell her family what had happened. And indeed, it is written, the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. As Eliezer figured, Lavan sees the gold and invites Eliezer to the house. Eliezer is smart. He knows exactly what to say. First, Eliezer emphasizes that his master, Abraham, is rich. And he goes on to say, my master's wife, Sarah, had borne him a son in an old age, and he has given him everything he owns. This means Sarah gave birth to an only child, and Abraham has already given all he has to Isaac. After Eliezer ends the part including the great wealth of Isaac and his future wife, he turns and talks about his assignment and the test that he set. Eliezer points that they are the first option. He is under oath to go to their home. But if they're not interested, he's free from the oath. Eliezer ends his speech with this statement. Now, if you will show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, so I may know which way to turn. Eliezer's speech is clever. He presents great wealth alongside a clear threat. Either you show kindness and send your daughter, or I'm free to go. It is clear to us that this marriage was ordained by God, but Eliezer understood that marriage required the consent of Rebekah's family, and is for every family. Economics is top priority. So Eliezer acted and spoke accordingly. And like many other places in the Torah, God's help works in cooperation with human effort and wisdom. The big question I am left after this story is, how can I know what is God's choice without having an explicit statement? And where do I stand in relations to Eliezer's test? Do tests like that apply to me today? Take, for example, the test of Gideon's fleece, where Gideon asks to lay a fleece and it would be dry while everything else around it would be wet, and vice versa, where the fleece would be wet and everything else around it would be dry. Today, the vast majority of the sages of Israel say you cannot rely on casting lots or similar signs and tests. I think so too. And yet, I believe that God sometimes puts signs before us even today. In conclusion from Eliezer's test and his wise conduct after the test, I am beyond any doubt that God works in cooperation with our human efforts and wisdom. God created you with a good and healthy brain with the intent that you use it. Shabbat Shalom.